So thank you all this afternoon for joining me. My name is Heather Murphy. I am a senior move manager with Abilities Network. And Abilities Network is a nonprofit organization. We've been around a long time, and we have a few different programs that we have under the umbrella of Abilities Network. Mine is our senior services division, which we started 12 years ago, but we've been around since 1964. And our first program was our Community and Employment Partners program. And then we also have 2 family and children related programs as well. So I, again, am a move manager. Many people have not heard of what that is before. So a move manager is someone who specializes in really helping people with the process of downsizing and moving, particularly when we're looking at moving into retirement communities or smaller condos, one-level living, places like that. Most of our clients have been in their homes for a long time and decided to make this move to make life a bit easier. And so not only do we help manage the physical aspects of moving, the hiring movers and the packing and the unpacking and all of that, but we also help prepare for the move, as well as be there as kind of that emotional support, because it's a really, really challenging and stressful time oftentimes for most of our clients. So most move managers are going to offer a number of different services. You can kind of see our recap here, but there are other move managers out there. We're not the only one. So I always recommend to make sure that you're talking with more than one service provider if this is something that you're looking at doing, just because you want to make sure that you mesh well with the person that's going to be helping you through this journey, because you guys are going to be together for a bit. So feeling a little overwhelmed? Feeling like downsizing is challenging? I know it does feel like that because it is stressful. It's one of the most stressful things that you can do. And so we want to make sure that we let you know that it doesn't have to feel that way, that it can be a lot easier than what people might think that it is. And so what we want to do is make sure that we are keeping in mind that there is some prep work to do. So first and foremost, setting realistic expectations. Most of our customers have been in their homes for 30, 40, 50 years, and that doesn't get where it is today in a day, right? So it took 30 years to get to where your home is now. It's not going to take a day or two to get undone from what you've done over those 30 or 40 years. So setting realistic expectations that this might take a little bit of time to get through and to go through. Also, finding resources is super important. A lot of times during the process of decluttering or downsizing, you're going to have lots of opportunities to make some donations or support certain organizations. And if you think about ahead of time what is important to you, then that is going to really help you to know where those resources are when you're ready for them. You can also use resources such as friends or family members who are helpful in decluttering, going through things, sorting, like being that physical help along with someone to talk to as you're going through your things, because it is emotional and there might be stories to tell. Working with the end result in mind is always super important. So some people downsize and declutter to remain in their own home just to make it a little bit more manageable as they're living there. Other people are doing that as part of the process of moving. But whatever that end result is, let's keep that goal in mind, because that's going to be what motivates you to get through the process. And as it says there, be kind to yourself. Take your time. It is almost more important to take the breaks in between doing the work so that you can decompress, so that you can kind of unpack any of that baggage that you literally and figuratively that you may have come across during the process. And it allows you time to process and just kind of regroup and get back to it when you're fresh. So a lot of people will call this process downsizing, decluttering, sorting, organizing, whatever your word for that is, it's all basically the same thing. You have to go through your stuff and figure out if you're keeping something, not keeping it, And if you're not keeping it, what to do with it. So we have some suggestions when it comes to starting that process. And first and foremost is stick with one room or one space at a time. And this is really helpful because what I find is a lot of people get sidetracked when they're meaning to work on one space, they get sidetracked into something else. And that really doesn't keep you on track or organized very well. And I'll even use an example here. So let's say I needed to organize my desk area, which by the way, I do. My desk needs to be organized. And as I'm starting to do it, and this is real life, my daughter left a toy on my desk. It's a little rubber ducky that belongs in her room, right? So what happens if I decide, oh, let me take that up to her room? Well, I'm going to find something in her room, probably cups and plates and stuff that belong in the kitchen. So then I'm going to bring it down here to put in the kitchen. And I'm going to find something in the kitchen that belongs in the basement, find something in the basement that belongs somewhere else. So I have used my time to do nothing but run the stairs, and I've done nothing at my desk. So stay where you are. And if you find that little rubber ducky, put it to the side. And at the end of your time frame that you allot for doing that work, then go deliver those things where they belong. So we do suggest a 2-hour time limit. 2 hours is enough time that you get it done. You get enough done that you feel like you've accomplished something, but it's also not so overwhelming that you can't find 2 hours in your day. Now, if 2 hours is too overwhelming to you, start with 10 minutes. Start with, 5 minutes, whatever works for you, but just get started. Now, I have heard from a lot of organizers or downsizers that you should make piles for keeping, selling, donating, and what needs to be trashed. And I do agree with that to a point. But I think there needs to be a question before that. I think the question really needs to be, am I keeping this thing or am I not? Okay, don't worry about what to do with the stuff you're not keeping right away. We can figure that out at a later step. The most important thing to make it super simple and easy is yes or no, yes or no, yes or no. If it's a yes, it gets put back where it belongs and gets organized in its space. If it's a no, it goes into a pile or somewhere where then later you can determine what you're doing with it. So how do you know if it's a yes or no? Well, the 3 most important questions that we ask is, do I use it? Do I need it? And do I love it? Okay, I'm not the downsizer that says, get rid of everything. So what about sentimentality? Emotional things are not important. That's not true at all. I think there is room for the stuff that you love, stuff that's been handed down through the family, for you to keep that. Now, can you keep an entire house, especially if you're moving into a smaller space? Probably not. So we'd have to talk a little bit about prioritizing, but it is important to keep the things that you use, the things that you need, and the things that you love. So we find ourselves oftentimes working the most often in closets, clothing, shoes, kitchens, and anything to do with paper. Those are kind of the main areas that people struggle a little more with, okay? So when we're talking about clothing, let's keep practical. What are you really wearing? Are you really wearing stiletto heels anymore, ladies? Probably not. I'm not anymore. So keeping what you wear. One of my favorite tricks for this is to hang up your hangers in your closet backwards. So go through and flip all of your hangers around so that the hooks are facing you rather than being put in straight forward. And as you wear things throughout the season and you wash them and you put them back the correct way. At the end of the season, everything that is still flipped around backwards is stuff that you haven't really worn. So that's a really good visual for you to be able to kind of sort through those things and say, oh yeah, maybe I should donate these. I don't really wear these anymore. They don't fit anymore. I just don't like them anymore. Any of those things. So that's a really quick, easy visual way to help you sort through your closet. Now, your dresser drawers are probably fairly similar. The top half of what is in your dresser drawer is probably what you're wearing. The bottom half might be where you can kind of look through and see if there's anything you can donate from there. In the kitchen tends to be the last place that we sort and declutter if someone is moving. Oftentimes when you move, if you move it particularly into a retirement community or senior living, they will be providing some of your meals for you. Some of them provide 1 meal a day, some provide all 3 meals. It depends on where you're moving. But you still need your kitchen the way it is in your home until you make that move. So that's why it's the last place we really look, unless there is a lot to do there and we can do an initial go through and then a secondary. So in the kitchen, this is where we can really talk about like duplicates. Do you have 3 can openers? Can you pick your favorite and let go of the other 2 to donate? Do you have multiple sets of pots and pans? Can we thin that down to 1 set? The cabinets and closets in your smaller homes are not going to be as, useful for multiple sets of china and things like that. So we're going to talk about the priorities there. I get the question a lot. Well, Heather, should I use my good china? And my theory on that is, if not now, then when? Yes, use the good china. If you're retiring, it is time to use the good china, use the good towels, sit on the couch, like all of those things, because it is finally time to reap your rewards. When we're talking about paper type stuff, we're talking about photo albums, books, papers. Those can be very emotional things for people, very sentimental, and sometimes very challenging to go through. So when we're talking about pictures, photos, things like that, I do suggest, if you have boxes and boxes and boxes of pictures in the back of a closet that you haven't checked on or looked at in years, chances are that there are pictures in there that you can let go of. Some of them that may be important, you can scan into a digital photo frame and display them all on one frame. That's a great space saving idea. Instead of having multiple frames all over the house, do one frame that flips the picture. And then that way you have all of your pictures in one place. You can get them into albums if you have space to store those albums. That's a great way to do it as well. There's lots of ways to digitally archive any of your photos and things like that. So certainly kind of look into those options. If you are a bibliophile like me and you love books, then we're going to talk about, what space do we have available to store your books in a way that is honoring them and making your space safe. Especially if we have a move planned. If someone really loves books, we really focus on making sure we get some bookcases into the new home. I actually read an article a couple of weeks ago about a couple who had downsized and moved. And one of the suggestions that was made to them is that the books are the place that you need to downsize. Like, they had lots and lots and lots of books. And so they thought that meant getting rid of all of their books. So they donated every book that they had in their home. And when they moved into their new place, they had a really hard time adjusting because they were not amongst books. And that was something that was important to them. So this is where I'm talking about that sentimental piece, that loving piece. It's still going to be your new home. You still want to have it feel like your home. So if you love books, let's plan ahead and make sure that we have the space for them. We might need to, bring the number of books down. We might, if you have 12 bookcases, we might bring 3. And maybe that's tough to do, but at least we still have some for you. Make sure you are making things like that your priority. Papers, I can do a whole hour-long presentation on paperwork alone, so I'm not going to get super deep into this, but as far as tax returns go, you only need your current year plus the 7 more recent years back. Anything past that can be shredded at this point. I have run into, I can't tell you how many 4-drawer metal filing cabinets in basements that are full of tax returns back to 1962. And no, we don't need all of those. And if you need more information about how long to keep certain papers, you can certainly reach out and I'm happy to help with that. Okay, so where do you start? We always say start with the low hanging fruit, the places that are going to be a bit easier to work through. So your garages, your attics, basements, sheds, places like that, store the things that you don't interact with on a daily basis. So, so those may be more emotionally easy to sort through. And some of the things, especially in the garage and maybe shed, are things that may remain with the house if you are making a move, right? So it might be garden tools, it might be things like that that the new owners might appreciate having. So we tend to say, let's sort through those spaces and let go of things that you don't need anymore while you are building up the muscle of downsizing and letting go. So after we've gone through those spaces, the next area really could be your closet, your clothing, the books and paper. And that's because, again, we're building that downsizing muscle. So you're starting to get a little bit better at letting things go and going through your things. And then, like I said earlier, the last place that we really focus on is your kitchen. It's kind of your heart of your home. Not only do you still need that to function the way that it does in your home until you move, it's usually one of the more emotional parts of downsizing the house, because that really is the heart of the home. That's where the family gatherings were, around the kitchen, around the dining table, things like that. So oftentimes that's a little bit more emotionally charged. And so if you've done the other areas first and kind of worked your way up, it's a little bit easier to go through them. So what do? You're starting to go through your things. How do you determine what to do next? So we have 5 steps of downsizing that we talk about. And like I said earlier, the first most important choice is whether you're keeping it or not. So that is step 1. Yes or no, for me, am I keeping it? Am I moving it to my new space? Is it going to remain with me? Secondly, would be to offer to family and friends. And here's why. A lot of people ask me, well, why wouldn't I try to sell my things next? Well, there's a couple reasons. First and foremost, the resale market for used items, furniture, and otherwise is really kind of soft right now. It's pretty difficult to sell things just because there's so much of it out on the market, and the generation today doesn't use things kind of the way that most of our clients have. They don't like the big dining room sets with the hutches and the china cabinets and things like that. They don't even ask for china for weddings anymore. So that's one of the reasons. The second reason is I would rather you offer it to someone who is going to love it and cherish it and use it and honor those things the way that you did. It feels better to let it go to someone who is going to make even more memories, maybe around that dining room table. So those are the reasons I go to friends or family second. Third step then is selling items. And there's lots of different ways that you can sell items. Yes, there is still a little bit of a market. It's not much, but there are certainly ways that we can help to make good recommendations for how to sell different items. You can see on this slide, there are a ton of different ways to do that. And that the right way just really depends on how much you have, what your timeline is, and really your needs. Do you want to be taking things to the consignment store every couple weeks and dropping off? They can be picky about what they take, and then what if it doesn't sell? But it might be an option for you. If that's something you enjoy doing, have it. Auction houses might come in and take things to auction. You have to be careful with that too, because it just really depends on who arrives on the day of the auction and how much they're willing to pay, and what is the auction percent of that sale. There are also buyers or pickers that we talk about, and oftentimes these are people who just kind of do this, kind of work on the side. They come in and they'll purchase things from you. If you accept the offer, then they take it away. They don't charge you for hauling away or anything like that, and then they resell it to try to make a little bit of a profit. There's online auction sales, estate sales, all kinds of different things. So that's one thing we pride ourselves in as move managers, is we can make a good recommendation based upon what you have and what the best way would be for those items. So if you have not kept it, if you haven't given it to friends or family, and you haven't sold it, the next step is donations. And donations have really changed since COVID. Before COVID, I had Habitat for Humanity, Second Chance, Salvation Army, all of those places would come out and pick up all kinds of donations from you. And it was easy to find someone. Now they all still exist, but they're not picking up anymore. So, a lot of the folks that we work with, we're challenged in, I can't move a sofa to Habitat for Humanity, and neither can my clients. So we have actually found one charity that we work with quite often that will come out and pick up from our clients. It's called Friendly Loving Opportunities, and they are wonderful. So I need to change my slide and get them on here. And they will come out and pick up. They ask for a small donation to help offset their fuel costs, and to help their operations go. But they provide household donated items to people of need. So it could be a woman who's escaping domestic abuse and starting her own place and needs furniture. It could be a refugee who is sleeping on the floor and has nothing. People who have been flooded or have had fires. Those are the kinds of people that Friendly Loving Opportunities supports. And so they actually deliver the furniture back out to them. So it's really a great cause, and one that we help to coordinate supporting a lot. So last step of downsizing is unfortunately your disposal step. So it's all of the things that you couldn't do something else with, whether you kept it or you sold it or you donated it, you gave it away, all of those things are out. Now what's really left is the stuff that you couldn't do those things with. Typically at this step, we're talking about true trash. We're talking about mattresses, old TVs, things that are broken, torn, stained, or just in disrepair. And so you can certainly use your regular trash pickup for some of that. There are recycling companies that you can get in touch with, and also our hauling companies that we use. So as you are going through and potentially searching for folks that might help you with this, make sure you're asking questions about them and their screening and how they hire and all of those things. And that is, in general, a good synopsis on how to downsize and declutter. I'm going to stop sharing now, and if there are any questions, please feel free to unmute and come on camera. I'd be happy to answer any questions for you. No? I've done a wonderful job then.
How do you do your move managing?
How do we do it?
Yes.
Okay. So first and foremost, we would come out and do an initial consultation with you so we can talk about your needs, when you're moving, get all of the background, come up with a game plan together, and we would provide an estimate and proposal at that time. From there, our services really include everything from measuring furniture and creating a space plan of the new place so that we know that things are going to fit and work. We help with hands-on sorting and downsizing, kind of all of what we were talking about today. My team will also help with the packing and unpacking, and we coordinate and manage the movers. So we've been doing this for 12 years, and we work with almost every senior living community that is in the area. So we're very familiar with all of the spaces and things like that. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. I have put my contact information in the chat. So if anyone has specific questions that they don't want to ask maybe here, but would like to reach out to me, My phone number and email address are in the chat box. You can certainly take those
Okay.
down.
Let me see.
Any other questions?
1, 0.
Well, wonderful. I very much appreciate everyone taking the time to spend with me today. Again, if you do have any other questions, please feel free to reach out. I'm happy to answer them, happy to schedule a consultation if that's what you would like. And I wish everyone a wonderful weekend.
Yeah, how much is your charge? Just
It depends on the service that you need and how much of that you need. So that free consultation is where I can determine what your pricing is going to look like.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
All right. Well, thank you all very much. Have a great weekend.
You too. Thank you.